your mark, ready, set, let's go.
Yeah, baby.
On your mark, ready, set, let's go. Let's go, let's go, let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to swing, baby. Yeah.
Getting jiggy with it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's freedom, baby. Yeah.
Getting jiggy with it.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
Getting jiggy with it.
Smashing, baby.
Count of three. I want everybody the place to be. To make some noise if you're down with me. 1, 2, 3.
Rock your body. What? Everybody. Rock your body,
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
Attacker, named by police as David Chapman, aged 25, from Honolulu, shot Lennon with a revolver after an argument. Mrs. Lennon called for help. Residents in the building came...
Pop world and beyond mourn the Beatles' John Lennon, murdered in New York.
Into the misery and, she says, abuse that soon followed.
I don't remember what I said, but I must have said something sarcastic, something innate.
Got out of the limousine to their apartment at the Dakota, where they were shot by a man who has been described, as you have said, by the police as deranged or a kook or something like that.
There were interviews with people who knew John Lennon, including his high school headmaster, who recalled that he was a problem.
I think his message is that, like in the song Imagine,
Chapman, who killed Lennon outside his Upper West Side home, Chapman fired 5 shots. Former
Beatle John Lennon was described in high school as being a loner and personable.
Okay, one of your best friends got assassinated, so...
Thought by killing him, I would acquire his fame.
A month ago, this album, with which now he will have to be remembered.
Immediately, the man who shot John Lennon walked up to the musician as he was leaving his limousine. According to eyewitnesses, he said, Mr. Lennon...
George Harrison wrote, and the line goes, life goes on within you.
John Lennon, outside of his apartment building on the west side of New York City, the most famous, perhaps, of all of the Beatles, shot twice in the back.
Hours before the murder.
And I fired at his back, 5 steady.
People of his time. As you heard Dr. Stephen Lynn at Roosevelt Hospital in New York City say, Lennon was shot and killed at about 11 o'clock last night outside his apartment.
I remember saying this when John Kennedy was shot. I remember saying this when Martin Luther King...
The hours before.
We have arrested Mark...
...were considered. However, parole shall not be granted for good conduct and program completions alone. Therefore,
which was on 44th Street on the corner of 6th Avenue. The record plant was on 44th Street between...
From a recording studio. I'll let him take it from there.
Yoko Ono had returned from a recording studio.
Dear Mr. Lennon, from information I received while using a Ouija board, I believe that there will be an attempt to assassinate you. The spirit that gave me this information was...
Shot twice in the back. Rushed to Roosevelt Hospital. Dead on arrival.
Yoko, he stayed true to his own principles. He said very recently that he wanted to break up from the Beatles for years.
He had no signs of life. He had no pulse, no blood pressure, no vital signs.
risk and needs assessment, letters of support, significant...
5 times on December 8th, 1980.
1981, saying he did it to gain attention.
Strict when they filed in, as there have been many threats against Chapman's life since the murder.
Inside a record studio.
They stepped out of the limousine and they went inside the gate there.
New York apartment. A lone gunman, Mark David Chapman, fired 4 bullets into Lennon, 3 in his chest and...
Like an idiot waiting for him to come back.
And what time did he come back?
He came back about 10 to 11 at night.
And Frauenberger rushed to Lennon's side.
We just said, we got to go with this guy. We can't wait for an ambulance. It could take 10, 15...
Up. The limousine pulled up.
The door opened.
Don't miss an NBC News special on John Lennon, the man and his music.
Former Beatle John Lennon is dead.
We look at the man and the music he left behind. The vigil in his memory continues tonight. Stephen Fraser is standing now outside the Dakota apartment building. Sullivan Show on a Sunday at 8 o'clock Eastern Time.
Star, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, John Lennon.
This morning sometime, very early.
Chapman wrote to Spiro. Chapman writes, Lennon was a phony of highest degree, but
his murder. In that he
Well, as I said, what can anyone say? It's a great tragedy, and it's just another evidence of that we have to try and stop. Yeah.
I'm talking about Mr. John Lennon.
Because if it was a slow process, we could have talked about
No grief. Everywhere it seemed that people sought the meaning of the Beatles' lives in their lives. And we have reports from Charles Osgood and
some played nothing but. People sent flowers, came.
Before she did, because he couldn't carry on without her. She said today there will be no funeral, only a silent prayer vigil later this week.
Lonely. The man was just, you know, a complete phony.
Somewhere that the war movement is over.
Took 5 steps, turned.
Chapman screamed out John's name to get his attention, took a combat stance.
For his soul. The man accused of killing the former Beatle, Mark David Chapman, has been ordered to undergo 30 days.
Bellevue Hospital under a 24-hour suicide watch. Over the next 30 days, doctors will test and evaluate Chapman.
Of New York City Monday night. We'll have a full report coming up in a few minutes.
I think Blue Hill is...
Please join me this Wednesday at 9 p.m. on WNEW-FM 1027 to share this moving interview as Yoko Ono Lennon remembers John.
Followed in a car, and my phone was tapped, and I think they wanted me to know to scare me, and I was scared, paranoid. People thought I was crazy then. You know, I mean, they do it.
On your mark, ready, set, let's go.
Yeah, baby.
On your mark, ready, set, let's go. Let's go, let's go, let's go.